Hey there, my name is Jim Gavigan, and today I'm going to do a review of many of the Pro and Avalon series Xcaliber golf shafts. I've been using these for a couple of years now, and I'm really impressed with what Robin and his team have developed. And I just wanted to share with you guys some of my experiences with them. So, a little bit about me first is just some pertinence because I think it's important to understand since we're all individuals, we're all looking for different things. I want to tell you some of the things, where my skill level is, what age am I, what are the things that I tend to struggle with. So that way you can kind of put this together and maybe do a little bit of extrapolation into your own game, into your own mindset if you're considering these shafts, or even if you're not considering these shafts. I think you probably ought to. I've been super impressed. So first of all, I've got my USGA card up here. As you can see, I'm just under a one handicap. It's actually been trending up a little bit. I actually had an injury late last year that cost me some time, and I'm finally starting to play a little bit better these days. I've had a few bad rounds, sprinkled in there where I'm, shooting 80 plus, but, I'm starting to shoot some of the lower numbers again. I just haven't shot anything under par yet this year, which it's kind of weird because I had several rounds under par last year that I just haven't been able to crack this year. So I give you a little bit about me. I'm 50 years old. I'm 5'8", about 165 to 170 pounds. I have been, trying to work out. I did do a little bit of speed training. I think I'm probably tapped out, speed-wise, but I am trying to work out so that I don't hurt myself again. I actually had some herniated discs in my neck, which was extremely painful and don't recommend to anybody. So I've been trying to just really be able to practice a lot, and have a couple hour range sessions if I want and not get hurt. So that's the biggest reason why I've been working out. I don't think it's really helped my speed. I don't think it's really done necessarily a lot for me. So let me bring up my swing here. And the reason I do this is just so you guys can kind of see, for yourself. I've got some Trackman data. But this was some stuff that I sent to Brian at Xcaliber, and I said, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm playing now. Here's what I'm looking for. And this particular day, I'm playing the original sim driver, 9 degrees, turned down to 7.5. That way I can kind of open the face up a little bit. In this particular case, I was trying to make sure that I was fading the ball, so I really didn't want to see the ball go left. And this was a 44.5-inch stiff flex Avalon 6, which I'm going to review here, tipped a ½ inch. I have since changed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But that's what I was hitting here. So as you can see, I have a fairly smooth tempo, nothing really outlandish. I've been working a lot on balance and body rotation. And as you'll see in some of my shot tracers for my shaft reviews today, I was kind of struggling a little bit with stalling my hips out, which is a fault of mine that I've been working on with my Pro. This particular day I was actually hitting it pretty solid. Was actually getting my hips turned through pretty well, so that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up. And also my shot tracers, I really didn't focus on me. I was trying to focus more on the ball flight. And so, really, let's see, let me get some Trackman data up there. So again, I don't have any kind of weird idiosyncrasies. My swing's fairly smooth. There's just not a lot of craziness going on. So let me bring up some Trackman numbers. So this was current driver paired up with the current 3-wood when I was doing some testing with some various shafts. So let's start with the driver. So I'll pull this off. So I was averaging right around 110, 111 miles an hour. Averaging almost 280 carry, 279 carry. That's pretty good down here in Florida because we don't get a lot of excess carry. Hitting it pretty well, keeping the spin rate, down, a fair amount. That 2400 is a pretty good spin rate for me. I feel like I can control that more. I can actually do some things to that sim to make it spin a lot less, but I really struggle to control it. It kind of really comes out like a knuckleball. And one of the things I really struggle with, this is why I bring this up, one of the things I struggle with a little bit is that lack of body rotation, lower body rotation. My hips tend to stall. I tend to flip my hands, get a little bit of early extension going. that's when I start hitting it a little funny. I start, spraying it and just not hitting it as solid. And so that's one thing I kind of battle. I also battle hitting the ball a little too high and spinning it a little bit too much. I didn't bring up a report I had of a TaylorMade M2 that I was hitting, but I was spinning that one more in the 28-2900 range. So, and I've spun driver consistently well over 3,000 with something I was playing last year around this time. So, it's been a pretty long search to find the right spin rate, right shaft flex, all those kind of things. I feel like I'm pretty dialed in right now. This is a really good setup for me. Balances distance with control. So this one's pretty good. So I was testing out a Ping G425 LST. On this day, put a bunch of different shafts in it. Didn't notice a lot of difference in it. This was not the Avalon that is currently in it today. But this is about what I should expect out of a 3-wood, in that 240 to 250 range, from a carry perspective. I hit a couple, not as good, caught them off the bottom of the face, spun them up a little bit. But as you can see, I average like 3,700, which is probably a little bit high. I'd probably like to be down around 33 to 3,500 there. But again, that's kind of one of those things that I tend to struggle with. And on this particular day, I was hitting a cut. I have since started to decide that, I really want to start trying to hit a draw. I feel like I hit a lot more shots, more solid. I don't get real wipey with it, and I don't get that early extension as much. So anyway, that's something I'm kind of working on, trying to get the spin down, ball flight down a little bit, and just hit it more solid. We'll see how it goes. But those are some things that I've tended to struggle with over the years and kind of where I'm at so that you guys can take that for what it's worth. Just another little bit of background on me. I've been building my own clubs for, I guess, 18 years now. My oldest son's 18. I started when he was probably about 6 months old. And really how that started was I was on the range one night. There was a guy at the local course where I used to live in Memphis that, he was coming by one day. He did all my club repair stuff. And I was hitting an Adams SC 9-degree driver with the standard stock stiff shaft. That was way too soft for me. That Adams SC had a design to get the ball in the air, which were things that I did not need. And I could tell that night because I was hitting the ball into the wind and felt like I was hitting it like 220, 230 yards, and they look like a pitching wedge. They would just spin up and then come straight down. And he comes walking by picking up buckets and on the range, and I said, "Hey Bob, I think I ought to try an extra stiff shaft. Watch me hit a couple and tell me what you think." And he kind of chuckles and tries to give me a lesson like I wasn't delivering, the club right. Now, this is a guy who was probably an 18 to 20 handicap, and I was probably playing off 2 or 3 at that point in time. I'd played with him a couple times. I'd shot, even to a couple over on 9, and he had shot bogey golf at best, right? So I'm like, buddy, you're not going to give me a lesson. You don't know enough. And so I just decided he's never going to get another dime of my money. And I sold a boat that I had at the time because I wasn't using it. And I had a golf course 5 minutes from the house. This is something I wanted to do for a little while. And being an engineer, I like to tinker with stuff. So I got into club making. So over the years, I've gotten to test a lot of shafts, a lot of different things. So I've kind of settled on kind of what works for me. And so that's kind of another basis for this review is I've always tended toward things that were too stiff for other people. They felt like they were boardy. Like back in the day, I loved the Grapholoid Blue shaft, which a lot of people thought was way too stiff. I loved it. Now, if I hit, say, something like a Hazardous Smoke Black or something along those lines, they feel incredibly boardy to me. I've got a Dynamic Gold X100 just straight in that I put in a 4-iron. Didn't like the feel because it felt too boardy to me. So I think I've smoothed out over the years, and I don't think I'm swinging as fast as I did when I was in my early to mid 30s when I first started this journey. So, but I have tended still to like a lot of things that other people find that they can't really get in the air and don't feel really that confident with. So, I still kind of tend that way, but just not as much as I used to. So just so you know, that kind of will slant my review just slightly. So if you're on the opposite end of that spectrum, maybe these aren't shafts for you, but certainly I think if you're a stronger swinger, lower handicap, even if you're not a lower handicap, but just have, a lot of swing speed and or a pretty violent transition, I think all these shafts that I'm about to review are things you could consider. So anyway, that's just a couple things about me, kind of put a little bit of perspective around what I'm about to tell you. Hey there, so I'm going to place this video at the beginning of a couple of my shaft videos, because if you look in my Avalon 6 review, I talk about how you can't knock 1,000-1,500 RPM off of a club or add that much with a shaft. And I make a couple of statements in a couple of videos that might lead you to think that. And that's really not the case. There's been some cases in my recent career where I was on the ragged edge club design wise. As a matter of fact, on the fairway one that I'm going to talk about, I talk about it spinning up too much. The reality was I was already on the ragged edge of that club spinning too much. And as a matter of fact, I was having to manipulate that club to not have it spin too much. I feel like I'm right there with my driving iron right now as well. And I feel like if I put a shaft in that even gives me 300-400 RPM extra spin and a little bit more launch, a degree, half a degree, it can make a lot of difference in peak height and in carry distance for me, because I'm on the ragged edge. And so I just want to make sure that I'm very clear, because I think head design has much more effect on ball flight than shaft design does. And I also think your delivery has a lot to do with it too. And knowing my faults, I tend to deliver a little too much lofted impact and end up, getting a little extra spin. So a lot of times, when I'm talking about, that one spun up a little bit, or, I feel like I'm spinning this a little bit much, the shaft may be like that whipped cream and cherry on top to that. And I can get it playable, maybe with a different design. So, again, this is all fine tuning, and everybody's results are very different. I just wanted to give you guys my personal results and what I observed and what I felt like I was observing, because I don't always have Trackman data to back it up. I can just tell you, here's what I was seeing, here's what I'm used to seeing, here's what I would like to see. So anyway, I hope you enjoy these videos, and I just wanted to clarify that before you get into them. All right, so next up are the I9 golf shafts, and just to give you an idea of what I'm playing in my irons, I've got a set of Maltby TS1s that I'm playing. Really good little iron if you're looking on a budget, or if you just like me. I like the component stuff. I like to be able to kind of play and tweak things. Don't necessarily want to pay all the OEM markup, but I'm going to tell you the TS1s have been really solid for me. I'm playing Dynamic Gold Sensacore X100s in those, and I don't remember if I soft stepped those. They may have been soft stepped once back in the day. I probably had those 15 years or better now. They don't even make those anymore. But I tend to like heavier weight golf shafts, in my irons. The X100 straight in feels a little harsh to me. The Sensacore always played a little softer. They had to thin the walls out a little bit because they put the insert in to do the vibration dampening. So they've always kind of played a little softer than the X100s. And they fit me really, really well. I love the vibration dampening of it. It makes, everything I'm playing feel very, very, muted. And not necessarily muted, but just really soft. I played them in Snake Eye 675B blades before that. I've had these TS1s probably about 15 months or so now. But man, you talk about a sweet feeling shaft and everything. I've just thoroughly enjoyed them. So that's kind of what I'm used to. I have tended not to like graphite shafted irons, and especially ones that are light. So I want you to bear that in mind when I start talking through, what I'm doing right here with the i9s. I think these are really, really good golf shafts. I've been really, really impressed with them, with their performance. For me, not a huge fan of the feel. Okay, that's just me personally. Okay, I don't want you guys to be distracted by anything I'm saying here. I just don't know that graphite irons fit me today. I'm 50 years old, as I've mentioned before. that day's coming when I'm going to have to go lighter, and this is definitely something I would consider playing for sure, because it's really performed well when I've hit it. So here's some numbers on my 8-iron that I took probably about a month or so ago. You know, I'm in that 160 to 165 yards carry range. You know, these were range balls, so that spin number looks a little bit down, but I got plenty of land angle to help me get the ball to stop. I hit these pin high a lot, you know, which to me is always the mark of a great golf shaft. Let's see. So this is kind of what an I9 looks like, you know, from the playing position. This is in a Maltby FDI driving iron. Let me find the video here, what these actually look like. I think these are really stunning looking golf shafts, in all honesty. Man, Robin and team have really done a killer job on a lot of these exclusive golf shafts. I mean, they really look stunning, y'all. I mean, it is really high class here. These are kind of like a burgundy, deep burgundy color, and they have this metal mesh, woven metal mesh that kind of goes down. They're trying to decrease the wall thickness and give it a little bit more of a lively feel. So I'm trying to zoom in on some of that metal mesh, and I've got a picture of it I'll bring up here in a minute. But right now I have this in a TS1 4-iron and an FDI 19-degree 2 hybrid, which is actually bent down to 17. And just to give you an idea what that shaft looks like at the tip, here's a typical graphite shaft. Here is the I9 with the metal mesh. I'm glad I took that picture. So that's kind of it. So let's see, let me pull up some swings here. So this is me hitting 7-iron, just to give you kind of an idea of the ball flight. You know, I do tend to hit the ball relatively high. Don't necessarily overly spin it. I don't know why that's not letting me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there's another 7-iron, and that ball actually faded. The shot tracer didn't really pick that up. But like I said, I've been working on a draw. I took this Saturday. I was just kind of rushing through. I'd hit probably a full basket worth of wedges here, so my body was kind of stalling. You know, I was kind of flipping a little bit, you know, and hitting these little baby fades instead of that nice little trap draw. That's okay. So here's the 4-iron. You know, really good ball flight. You know, it spun up a little bit right there, but that was more me than the club. You know, I hit that really solid. When you catch one in the center of the face, it feels absolutely as good as anything you'll feel. Where I kind of struggled a little bit was compared to the Sensocore, which has a lot of vibration dampening. You know, these feel just a little bit more harsh to me. You know, and I struggle a little bit with the lightness of it. You know, I mean, we're talking 132 gram, I think, raw shaft weight on an X100 Sensocore. Actually, it may have been like 128, 129, something like that. But it's in that 130 gram range. You know, the i9's 95 grams, so it's a very different feel. And as you'll see, I ended up building these like a 1/2 inch extra long just to get the swing weight to feel the way I wanted to. That ball actually went higher than what that shot tracer showed. I can actually see it. Let's see if I can find the ball flight. That ball is actually like right up in here, so it's a little bit higher than what it's showing. You know, so I built this like a 1/2 inch extra long just to try to get the swing weight where I wanted, and I did add a couple gram tip weight to it. I tend to like clubs in that D4 to D5 range for irons, and really pretty much everything I'm playing in that range right now. So again, some other 4-irons here. That one was just kind of a low bullet penetrating, just yanked it a little bit. Like I said, I was stalling the hips and kind of hitting it a little bit left here. Again, here's another one, and that shot tracer just absolutely did not follow that one. Let me see if I can. This one actually was a massive tug, and I think what happened is the divot actually screwed up. You can see the ball is like right here. This ball actually went over here left, and the shot tracer just couldn't pick it up because this divot was flying. But you can even kind of see, you know, here I'm kind of, you know, my impact position isn't bad there, but if I can stop one just past impact, I can tell by the way I look. I'm just flipping, my hips kind of stalled here. But and I think for me, I find the lighter weight graphite shafts don't help me with that problem. I think the heavier weight shafts tend to keep my tempo and my swing a little bit more even. I can find the club and feel it a little bit better. But my day's coming where I'm not going to be able to swing 130 gram shafts anymore. I'm just not. At 50 years old, I probably got another 3 to 4 years to play, the extra stiff shafts, and then I'm probably going to be dropping down to the stiffs. And probably by the time I hit 60, I'm going to be considering a shaft like this. If I were to slow down at all for like injury or anything like that, like I have had some golfers' elbow issues, this definitely helps with that. But really what I want to do is judge these on performance. And to be honest with you, the ball flight, I've hit this particular club with an X100 soft step once with an insert, which felt as close to my Sensicors as I could make it. And the ball flight, I bet I really couldn't tell the difference. I think they went probably close to the same number. This probably flew a little further. But really the ball flight looked almost identical. The feel, me personally, I like the feel of the steel shaft and that insert a little bit better than this. Others won't necessarily like that feel. They feel like that's too harsh. So everybody's a little bit different, but from a performance standpoint, I think these perform magnificent. So here I am hitting the FDI, and I'm struggling a little bit with this one, just timing it. I'm actually gonna try a steel shaft in this one as well. I'm gonna put a Modus 120 in it just to kind of keep that smoothness, of the swing, and I'm gonna soft step an X Flex once. So I'm gonna play a 3-iron shaft. Wait a minute. Make sure I get this right. Yeah, I'm going to play a 3-iron stiff shaft. So it's going to be hard. Actually, this one's going to be hard step. The 4-iron, I'm going to soft step it once. I'm going to take an X Flex and play a 3-iron in that. And that's mostly because of just what they had in stock. I would have taken, they don't have a 1-iron shaft, so I had to take a stiff and hard step stiff to get kind of what I'm looking for. That one spun up just a little bit. Again, I got my hip stalling a little bit. But as you can see, the ball gets in the air, really well. That's a 17-degree, FDI driving iron. This was definitely one that shot tracer just flat missed. Let's see if I can find that ball again. That ball came out, low bullet. So it's like right here and kind of, I don't think it got over these clouds. Let me see if you guys can see that. But yeah, it came out like the peak was like right about here and starting to cut. So it probably would have finished right about where that little chimney is. So, I can flight these down. Kind of the same thing. Oh yeah, this was me playing with a shot tracer trying to find that ball. I just couldn't find it for whatever reason. But I hit a nice little penetrating cut right there. And then here's my last swing. It followed that one pretty well, except it missed the peak height. So that peak height was probably more like up in here. But realistically, in the driving iron, I'm struggling. I think I'm spinning this one a little bit much. It's not flying as far as what I think, even bent down to 17 degrees. And I was conversing with Brian last night on email, and what I did here is, since they only offer a regular and a stiff in the I9, they give you a 6-inch parallel tip section. So you can take a stiff and make it play like an extra stiff. So what I did to kind of guess that is I wanted this to play like an extra stiff. This is a stiff. And I trimmed it a 1/2 inch. So basically I trimmed it like it was a 4-iron on the tip section. And so therefore it's probably really a soft stepped extra stiff. It would be soft stepped once probably. I'd have to trim it like a 5-iron to make it like a true extra stiff. But the good thing about a graphite shaft like that is typically on a steel shaft you might have 4.5 inches of parallel tip section. They give you 6. So the ability to trim it different ways to get a certain performance characteristic is much easier in a graphite shaft. I think that's an advantage for sure. I think the other advantage is if you're a slower swinger, or you've got, the elbow issues or shoulder issues or things like that, the vibration dampening, with the graphite, I think is much better on your joints. And the reality is I think you could get more performance if you're a slower swinger, or if you don't have the same faults I have, even if you're a hard swinger, that you might, be able to play a graphite shaft. For me, it's not where I want to go today, but the reality is I would have no hesitation putting anyone who wants to try a graphite shaft in these. I think they're excellent. You can see the performance is good. I can flight it high and low. It doesn't overspin. The ball flight looks really good. I know that 4-iron, where I'm hitting that as opposed to a steel shaft that fits me really well. It's almost the same, if not just a little farther with the graphite. I'm going to have a little tighter dispersion on the steel, just me personally. But I would have no hesitation putting people who want to try graphite or a lighter weight shaft in this. This is, if you're considering like a steel fiber or maybe a Dynamic Gold, 105 or the Modus 105 or something like that, I think this is an absolute great option, in that same kind of price range, weight range. It's maybe just a hair lighter than some of those, but I think this could hold up to anybody's swing, anywhere, anytime. So I think they've done a really good job. Stunning looking shaft, performs great. Just because it doesn't necessarily suit what I like to see, I would have no problems playing this. Or I would have no problems fitting someone into this. So anyway, that's kind of my take on the i9s.